Welcome to Skytech-Lens. Tonight, we turn our attention to the border we share with our closest ally, Canada. For generations, this boundary has symbolized not just geography, but a deep and enduring partnership, one built on trust, open trade, and shared prosperity. But now, a new and profound chill has descended upon the world's longest undefended border, not from a winter storm, but from a trade dispute that is testing the very foundations of this historic relationship. The air is thick with uncertainty, and the stakes have never felt higher. The United States, under President Trump's America First policy, has escalated a tariff war that began with steel and aluminum, and now targets a wide range of Canadian goods. From lumber to dairy, and even auto parts, the list of affected products continues to grow, sending shockwaves through industries on both sides. Canada, led by Prime Minister Mark Carney, has responded with quiet resolve, determined to protect its economic sovereignty. Canadian officials have emphasized unity and resilience, vowing to stand firm in the face of mounting pressure. The stakes are high, both economies are deeply intertwined, with millions of jobs and billions in trade at risk. The conflict reached a boiling point on August 1, 2025, when the U.S. hiked tariffs to 35% on key Canadian exports, sending shockwaves through border communities. Unlike other allies, Canada refused to sign a last-minute deal it deemed unfair, setting the stage for a high-stakes standoff. The government's refusal was seen as a bold move, signaling that Canada would not be pressured into an agreement that undermined its interests. President Trump claims these tariffs protect American jobs, while Canadian leaders argue they are punitive and ultimately harm both sides. The rhetoric has grown sharper, with each side appealing to national pride and economic security. This dispute is more than numbers. It's a clash of economic philosophies, with real consequences for industries and families on both sides of the border. Small businesses, workers, and entire communities now face an uncertain future as the standoff drags on. As we dig deeper, we'll explore the nature of these tariffs, Canada's response, and the impacts rippling through both nations. The story of this trade dispute is still unfolding, and its outcome will shape the future of North American relations for years to come. The American tariff strategy is both broad and targeted, designed to pressure Canada's most vital industries. It began with a 50% levy on Canadian steel and aluminum, then quickly expanded to over 400 product categories, including heavy machinery, green energy components, and household goods. Even gold bullion was briefly targeted, sending shockwaves through global markets before the tariff was rescinded. The message: no industry is safe from being drawn into this trade battle. President Trump touts short-term GDP growth as proof of success, but many economists see it as a temporary spike from businesses stockpiling before tariffs hit. The reality is more complicated. These tariffs are reshaping supply chains and inflicting pain on both sides. The intended targets aren't the only ones feeling the squeeze. American consumers and businesses are also caught in the crossfire. The next chapter reveals just how far-reaching these consequences have become. Canada's response to escalating tariffs has been measured and strategic, reflecting both resilience and adaptability in the face of mounting economic pressures. Prime Minister Carney's government refused to accept a one-size-fits-all deal, instead rolling out a multi-pronged approach: firm diplomacy abroad, robust support at home, and a clear message of unity to Canadians. Ottawa's financial backstop offers significant loans to help businesses weather the storm, maintain payrolls, and adapt to new trade realities. This support ensures that companies can continue to innovate and invest in their workforce, even during uncertain times. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford is pushing for tax cuts and lower interest rates, aiming to stimulate investment and encourage growth across key sectors. These measures are designed to keep the auto sector competitive and secure thousands of jobs in Canada, reinforcing the province's role as an economic engine. Diplomatically, Canada lifted some retaliatory tariffs, demonstrating a willingness to compromise while still defending national interests. At the same time, Canada kept pressure on sensitive U.S. sectors, maintaining leverage while signaling openness to negotiation and collaboration. A key meeting between Canadian and U.S. officials kept communication channels open, even as tensions simmered, ensuring that dialogue remained possible. Canada's message is clear: it seeks a fair resolution, but not at the expense of its long-term interests or the well-being of its people. This balanced approach is designed to protect Canadian industries, safeguard jobs, and foster stability, all without escalating the conflict further. The next scenes show how these strategies play out on the ground, shaping the future of Canada's economy and its role on the world stage. The real impact of the tariff war lands squarely on American families. Retailers like Home Depot and Procter & Gamble are raising prices, making everything from building materials to household essentials more expensive. Yale's Budget Research Office estimates the average American household will pay an extra $2,000 to $4,000 a year due to these tariffs. For many, this isn't just an inconvenience, it's a financial crisis. The cost of canned goods has soared, as tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum drive up packaging prices, embedding a hidden tax in everyday groceries. The tourism sector is also suffering, with fewer Canadian visitors and lost revenue for American businesses. The ripple effects are clear. Tariffs meant to protect are instead straining household budgets and local economies. Small businesses, the backbone of the U.S. economy, are bearing the brunt of the trade war. With thin margins and little leverage, many face a stark choice: raise prices and risk losing customers, or absorb costs and risk closure. The story of West Side Kids, a beloved New York toy store forced to close due to unsustainable tariffs, is echoed across the country. Small manufacturers like a Midwest trailer workshop reliant on Canadian steel are now at a severe disadvantage against larger competitors. Each closure represents lost jobs and weakened communities, hollowing out Main Street America. These businesses are more than economic units, they're community pillars. Ironically, tariffs intended to protect American industry are inflicting the most damage on its most vulnerable players. The next scene explores how these pressures are reshaping entire industries. The US-Canada trade dispute has upended the North American automotive industry, once a model of cross-border efficiency. For decades, automakers relied on seamless movement of parts and vehicles across borders, building cars with components sourced from all three countries. Now that system is under strain. American truck maker PACCAR reported $75 million in extra costs in just one quarter, thanks to tariffs on essential materials. These added expenses ripple through the supply chain, affecting suppliers, workers, and ultimately, consumers. Meanwhile, competitors like Daimler Truck assembling in Mexico avoid these tariffs and gain a crucial cost advantage. Their trucks can be sold at lower prices, making them more attractive in a fiercely competitive market. This price gap is shifting market share away from US manufacturers and threatening American jobs. Workers and communities that depend on these factories are feeling the pressure. Industry experts warn US auto output could fall by 11% by 2026, risking plant closures and layoffs. The stakes are high for thousands of families across the country. Tariffs meant to protect are instead making American-made vehicles less competitive. Higher prices at dealerships mean fewer buyers and slower sales. US steel mills, expanding capacity, now face weak demand and high prices, sometimes $400 per ton above the global average. This puts further strain on the entire manufacturing ecosystem. Automakers are caught, pay a premium for domestic steel or hefty tariffs on imports, either way raising costs for consumers. The dilemma leaves little room for relief. The result is a double bind that threatens the future of American manufacturing. Without change, more factories could close and more jobs could disappear. The next chapter looks at how Canada is adapting to this new reality, and what lessons might be learned for the future of North American industry. Ironically, US tariffs have sparked a manufacturing boom in Canada. As American goods become pricier, Canadian companies are turning to domestic suppliers, driving investment and job creation. Quebec's food industry is thriving, with sales more than doubling as processors avoid tariffed US imports. A new Windsor plant will soon produce over 1 billion cans annually, creating over 100 jobs and revitalizing a region hit by auto industry downturns. Hamilton's steel sector is also repatriating finishing work, reducing reliance on US facilities and strengthening Canada's industrial base. This strategic adaptation is building resilience and self-sufficiency, with businesses reshoring supply chains to guard against future disruptions. The tariffs meant to boost US industry are instead fueling Canadian innovation and growth. Canada's manufacturing renaissance is a testament to its ability to turn crisis into opportunity. But Canada isn't stopping there, it's forging new alliances to secure its future. Canada is moving swiftly to diversify its trade relationships, reducing reliance on the US. The current conflict has accelerated efforts to deepen ties with global partners, building resilience for the future. A key initiative is the Northern Corridor, a $120 billion infrastructure project with Mexico, designed to create a direct trade route and bypass the US for certain cargo. Canada is also expanding access to European and Asian markets, leveraging trade agreements like the CPTPP and CETA. Government support is helping businesses find new customers abroad, turning crisis into global opportunity. This diversification is a quiet but powerful form of resistance, ensuring Canadian prosperity isn't held hostage by US policy. By building bridges with Mexico, Europe and Asia, Canada is safeguarding its economic independence. The world is watching as Canada redefines its place in global trade. The US-Canada trade dispute is more than a political spat, it's a turning point for both nations. Tariffs have exposed vulnerabilities in shared supply chains and inflicted real pain on businesses and families. Canada's calm, strategic response, targeted support, firm diplomacy and diversification shows remarkable resilience. The unintended manufacturing boom highlights Canada's adaptability and long-term vision. But the trust that defined this partnership is eroding, risking a lose-lose scenario of higher costs and diminished cooperation. The path forward demands a return to mutual respect and negotiation, not confrontation. The outcome will shape North American trade and send a message about the future of global economic relations. The stakes could not be higher. Thanks for watching. Subscribe the channel for more updates.